The wrench slipped from my oil-slicked fingers, clattering against the cracked concrete of Mrs. Hargrove's driveway like a gunshot in the still summer air of Elmwood, Ohio. Her eyes wide, unblinking, brimming with something raw and unspoken, pinned me there, turning the humid afternoon into a frozen tableau where my pulse thundered louder than the idling engine behind us. In that split second, I knew. This wasn't gratitude for the free tune-up. It was the kind of look that unravels secrets, the kind that whispers, "I see you, Alex, and God help us both." I wiped my forehead with the back of my hand, smearing grease across my skin like war paint, and forced a grin that felt more like a grimace. "All set, Mrs. H. Your old Chevy's purring like a kitten now. Should get you to that doctor's appointment in Columbus without a hitch." Elmwood was the sort of town where everyone knew your business before you did. 2 stoplights, a diner that served the best apple pie west of the Mississippi, and enough front porch gossip to fuel a lifetime of regrets. At 28, I'd spent most of mine under the hoods of cars at Riley's auto shop, dodging questions about why a guy like me, tall, broad-shouldered, with a jawline that turned heads at the county fair, was still single. Folks figured I was picky, waiting for the right girl to sweep in like some Hallmark movie heroine. If only they knew the truth clawing at my ribs every damn day. Mrs. Hargrove, Eleanor, to her face, though she'd never let a neighbor kid like me get that familiar, clutched her purse like a lifeline, her silver-streaked hair escaping its bun in wispy defiance. She'd been my next-door neighbor since I was in diapers, back when her husband, Big Tom, was still around to grill burgers on the 4th of July and bellow cheers at high school football games. Cancer took him 5 years back, leaving her rattling around in that 2-story Victorian like a ghost in her own life. "Alex, honey," she said, her voice cracking just enough to twist the knife. "You're a godsend. But it's not the car I'm worried about today." She glanced toward the passenger seat, where a faded photo of Tom peeked from the sun visor, then back at me. That look again. Piercing, almost accusatory, like she'd caught me stealing sips from the communion wine at St. Mary's. It wasn't pity exactly, more like recognition, the kind that says, "I've been watching you dance around your own shadows, boy, and it's time to stop." I swallowed hard, the taste of transmission fluid bitter on my tongue. "You need anything else? Groceries? I can swing by after my shift." It was a deflection, pure and simple. Always was with her. Eleanor had this way of seeing through the bullshit. Ever since I was 15 and she'd found me crying in her backyard after my dad caught me staring too long at the quarterback during practice. She hadn't said a word then, just handed me a glass of lemonade and told me stories about her wild college days in the 70s. Protests, free love, the whole counterculture fever dream. "The world's changing, Alex," she'd murmured. "But hearts? They take their sweet time." She shook her head, that knowing smile tugging at her lips. "No, darlin'. Just be careful out there. The road's full of potholes you can't see coming." And with that, she slid into the driver's seat, the door slamming shut like a judge's gavel. I watched her taillights fade down Maple Street, the Chevy's exhaust puffing lazy clouds into the blue sky infinity. My hands shook as I packed my tools into the battered red toolbox. Dad's old one. The only thing he'd left me besides a lifetime of man-up, lectures, and a closet so deep I could hear echoes in it. That night, the look haunted me over a solitary beer at O'Malley's, the local dive where the jukebox spun Merle Haggard and the bartender, Frankie, poured with a sympathy that bordered on suspicion. Elmwood wasn't hostile. Not like the stories you hear from the coasts, but it wasn't waving rainbow flags at Pride either. Last year, when the city council debated adding gender-neutral bathrooms at the rec center, the meeting devolved into shouts about protecting family values. I kept my head down, volunteered at the food pantry, fixed flat tires for the church widows. Safe, predictable, until her eyes drilled into me that afternoon, stirring up the what-ifs I'd buried under layers of flannel and football talk. The door to O'Malley's swung open with a groan, letting in a gust of July heat and a stranger who changed everything. He was tall, lean like a willow branch, with dark hair tousled by the wind and eyes the color of storm clouds over Lake Erie. Gray, piercing, pulling you under before you could gasp for air. He scanned the room, shoulders hunched against some invisible weight, and made a beeline for the empty stool next to mine. "Evening," he said, voice low and smooth, laced with a faint drawl that screamed Texas by way of somewhere lonelier. "What's a guy gotta do to get a whiskey neat around here?" Frankie chuckled from behind the bar, polishing a glass with deliberate slowness. "New in town, Jake? This here's Alex. Fixes anything with an engine." "Alex, meet Jake Harlan. Just rolled in from Austin, fixing up the old Miller place on Oak." Jake extended a hand, calloused and warm, and when our palms met, it was like static electricity arcing across a dead battery. Sharp, alive, impossible to ignore. "Pleasure," he said, holding the grip a beat too long. His smile was crooked, guarded, the kind that hid stories in its corners. I mumbled something about the weather, heat wave be damned, and nursed my beer while he ordered. Conversation trickled out like oil from a slow leak. He was a carpenter, chasing contracts up north after a bad breakup back home. No details, just a shadow crossing his face that mirrored my own. By closing time, we'd polished off a second round, trading laughs over small-town quirks. The annual corn maze that always trapped Old Man Wilkins overnight. The way the high school band butchered the Star-Spangled Banner every Memorial Day. Jake had a way of listening, really listening, his head tilted just so, like your words were the only blueprint that mattered. "Elmwood seems solid," he said, pushing back from the bar. "Like the kind of place where roots go deep." There was a question in it, unspoken, and I felt that driveway look from earlier echo in my chest. "I see you." We walked out together into the muggy night, fireflies winking like conspirators along the cracked sidewalk. His truck was parked crooked by the curb, a dusty Ford F-150 with Texas plates peeling at the edges. "Hey," he said, pausing by the tailgate. "If you're not busy tomorrow, I could use a hand with the porch at the Miller house. Boards are rotted through. Pay you in pizza and bad jokes." I hesitated, the safe part of me screaming to bail, to pedal home on my bike and lock the door on whatever this was. But Eleanor's eyes flashed in my mind. "Be careful, but don't stop living." And I nodded. "Yeah, text me the address." He grinned, that crooked flash lighting up the dark, and for the first time in years, Elmwood felt less like a cage and more like a crossroads. The next morning dawned sticky and relentless, the sun baking the dew off the lawns before the rooster on Widow Jenkins' farm could crow. I rolled up to the Miller place on Oak Street in my '92 Jeep Cherokee, toolbox rattling in the back like loose change in a beggar's cup. The house was a sagging beauty, peeling white clapboard, wraparound porch begging for revival, wisteria vines clawing at the eaves like desperate fingers. Jake was already there, shirtless and hammering nails into fresh lumber, sweat tracing rivulets down his back that caught the light like quicksilver. He waved me over, oblivious or uncaring, and handed me a spare mallet. "Knew you'd show. Let's make this old girl stand tall again." We worked in companionable rhythm, the kind that sinks without words, saw, measure, nail, repeat. He talked easy about Austin, the live music scene on 6th Street, the barbecue joints that'd make you weep, the anonymity of a big city where a man could breathe without explanation. "Miss the stars, though," he said, wiping his brow on a bandana. "Texas sky's endless. Here, it's like the clouds are hugging too tight." I nodded, sharing scraps of my own life. The shop's endless oil changes, Dad's ghost in every carburetor I rebuilt, the way Elmwood's river ran muddy after spring rains, carrying secrets downstream to the Ohio. Lunch was cold cuts on the porch steps, pizza forgotten in the heat. Jake stretched out, legs sprawled, and asked the question I'd dodged for years. "So, what's your story, Alex? You got that look, like you've got one foot in and one out." My throat tightened, sandwich turning to ash. Eleanor's gaze flickered again, urging me forward. "Just figuring it out," I said finally, voice rough as sandpaper. "Small town. You know how it is." He didn't push, just met my eyes with that storm-gray steadiness. "Yeah, I do." Afternoon blurred into sawdust and splinters, our hands brushing accidental on purpose as we hefted beams. By dusk, the porch groaned back to life under our hands, a tentative resurrection. Jake cracked open a couple of IPAs from a cooler, clinking bottles in a toast. To new foundations. The foam fizzed golden, mirroring the fireflies starting their nightly ballet. We sat there, shoulders almost touching, the air thick with unspoken electricity. His knee nudged mine. Deliberate, testing. And when I didn't pull away, he leaned in, breath warm against my ear. Thanks for today. Feels good, building something real. That night, alone in my attic apartment above the shop, walls papered in faded Eagles posters, beds sagging under the weight of too many restless nights. I replayed it all. The look from Eleanor, the spark from Jake. My phone buzzed. A text from him, simple as sunrise. Porch looks killer. Dinner tomorrow? My treat. Heart hammering, I typed back, you're on. For the first time, the closet door creaked open. Just a crack. Letting in light I wasn't sure I deserved. But Elmwood had other plans. The next day at the shop, Frankie slid a rag my way with a smirk. Heard you and the new guy were thick as thieves yesterday. Careful, kid. Harlan's got a rep from down south. Broke some hearts before hightailing it north. I laughed it off, but the seed lodged, sprouting doubt. Who was Jake, really? And why did his smile feel like a promise I couldn't afford to believe? Dinner was at the Elmwood Diner, red vinyl booths and coffee that could strip paint. Jake showed up in a button-down that hugged his frame just right, hair combed but already rebelling. We split a platter of burgers and fries, talking everything and nothing, favorite road trips, his, Big Bend at midnight, mine, the winding backroads to Hocking Hills, worst tattoos, a drunken longhorn on his shoulder, a regrettable high school eagle on my calf. Laughter came easy, loosening the knots in my chest. Under the table, his boot hooked around my ankle, casual as you please, and the world narrowed to that point of contact. Warm, insistent, alive. After, we drove out to the river bend, gravel crunching under tires as we parked by the water's edge. Moonlight silvered the current, turning it to liquid mercury. Jake killed the engine, silence settling like a blanket. Alex, he said, turning to me, voice stripped bare. I didn't come here to fix houses, came to fix me. His hand found mine in the dark, fingers interlacing with a gentleness that belied his carpenter's grip. I froze, then leaned in, our lips meeting soft and searching, salt and sweat and the faint tang of diner ketchup. It was tentative at first, then deepening, a dam breaking after years of drought. His stubble rasped against my skin, his free hand cupping my neck like I was something precious, breakable. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together. Been a long time, he murmured. Since Austin, girlfriend ex now. Thought I could play straight forever. But it don't work that way. The confession hung there, vulnerable as exposed wiring. I nodded, my own truth spilling out in whispers. The crushes buried deep, the fear of Dad's ghost judging from the garage rafters, Eleanor's quiet vigil. Me too, I said. Hiding's exhausting. He pulled me close, arms a fortress against the night chill, and for those stolen hours by the river, Elmwood faded. It was just us. Two men untangling in the moonlight, threads of hope weaving through the hurt. Word count crept up on us like autumn fog. Weeks blurred into a rhythm. Mornings at the shop, grease under nails. Afternoons with Jake, hammering dreams into the Miller porch. Evenings tangled in his truck cab or my attic, kisses turning to confessions under the covers. He fit Elmwood like a puzzle piece I'd never known was missing. Charming Frankie at the bar, helping Eleanor with her garden. She shot me that look again, approving now, even joining the volunteer crew for the Harvest Festival. You're good for this place, I told him one crisp October night, leaves crunching underfoot as we walked the fairgrounds. Good for me. He squeezed my hand, hidden in his jacket pocket. Ditto, grease monkey. But shadows lengthened with the days. Jake's phone buzzed more. Calls he took in the next room, voice low and edged. Work stuff, he'd say, but his eyes dodged mine. I pushed it down, told myself it was paranoia, the old closet habits dying hard. Eleanor noticed, cornering me in her kitchen over pumpkin pie. That boy's carrying baggage heavier than Tom's old toolbox. Alex. Love's a risk. Worth it, but risky. Her words echoed as I lay awake. Jake snores soft beside me, wondering what ghosts haunted his storms. The betrayal hit like a blown gasket on the interstate. Sudden, catastrophic. It was a Friday, shop slow, when Frankie tossed a crumpled flyer on the workbench. Check this out. Harlan's big announcement at the town hall tonight. Future of Elmwood or some bullshit. My stomach nodded. Jake had mentioned a meeting. Contract bids, he'd said. But the flyer screamed politics. Jake Harlan, running for city council on a family-first platform, backed by the very conservatives who'd hollered down those bathroom debates. I confronted him at the Miller House, hammer mid-swing. Council? Family first? What the hell, Jake? He lowered the tool, face paling. It's not what you think. My family's pushing. Dad's a donor down south, wants me legitimized. So cover, Alex. By time till I can come out clean. Lies stacked like warped boards. I grabbed my jacket, storming out into the biting wind. Time? Or just another closet? His plea chased me. Wait, please. I love you. But the door slammed, echoing Eleanor's warning. The town hall was a circus. Banners, handshakes, Jake at the podium in a suit that screamed assimilation, promising traditional values to thunderous applause. I sat in the back, invisible, heart-shattering with each platitude. When his eyes found mine in the crowd, pleading, I slipped out, the river calling like an old friend. There, under the same moon that witnessed our first kiss, I wept. For the boy I'd been, the man I almost was, the love poisoned by pretense. Days bled into silence. Jake's texts piled up. Talk to me. I'm dropping out. But pride walled me off. Eleanor bridged the gap, inviting us both to Thanksgiving dinner. Foolish boys, she chided, carving the turkey. Life's too short for half measures. Under her roof, with Tom's photo watching benevolent, we faced it. Jake confessed the full rot. Ex-fiancé's threats, family pressure, his own terror of losing everything. I ran to Elmwood to build, not hide, he said, voice breaking. With you. I forgave, not in a blaze, but a slow thaw. Conversations by the fire, hands tentative until they weren't. He withdrew from the race, coming out in a quiet Elmwood Gazette op-ed that split the town like a fault line. Protests at the diner, glares at the shop, but also nods from unexpected corners. Frankie pouring free coffees, the quarterback from high school clapping my shoulder at the grocery. Jake and I rebuilt the Miller porch, then our trust, board by scarred board. Winter gripped Elmwood in frost-laced fingers, but spring came fierce. Cherry blossoms rioting pink along Maple Street, the river running clear and forgiving. On the Miller porch, now sturdy as vows, Jake knelt one April dawn. Not with a ring but a simple cedar box. Inside, 2 silver keys, etched with stars. To whatever comes, he said. Together. I pulled him up, kissing him fierce under the wisteria bloom. Eleanor's Chevy idling approvingly in the drive. That look from her months back, it hadn't stopped my heart. It restarted it. In Elmwood's unyielding embrace, we'd carved a space for us. Dramatic as a thunderstorm, suspenseful as a narrow bridge, emotional as a prodigal's return. Human, flawed, enduring. Love, it turns out, isn't a straight road. It's the detours that make the journey home. The first real test came not with pitchforks or sermons, but with a knock at dawn. Jake's sister, Lila, materializing on the Miller doorstep like a monsoon from Austin. She'd driven through the night, her compact Honda wheezing apologies for the intrusion, eyes red-rimmed and furious. What the hell do you think you're doing, Jacob Harlan? Dropping the campaign? Coming out? Mama's beside herself. Says you're throwing away the family name for this. She gestured wildly at me, toolbox in hand, as if I were Exhibit A in a trial of bad decisions. Jake's face drained of color, that crooked smile fracturing. Lila, not now. Alex and I. But she barreled on, voice slicing the morning mist. And him? The small-town mechanic? You could have had law school, a firm in Dallas. Instead, You're playing house in this podunk nowhere. The words landed like hail on tender shoots, and I felt the old instinct to shrink, to mutter excuses and fade into the woodwork. But Jake stepped forward, hand finding mine, solid, unyielding. This is home now, and Alex, he's the best damn thing that's happened to me. We're not playing. Lila deflated then, collapsing onto the porch swing with a sigh that carried the weight of Texan expectations. Over coffee, black as regret, strong as resolve, we pieced it together. She wasn't just the messenger. She was the ex-fiancé's confidant, the one who'd urged Jake toward normalcy back when denial was easier than truth. I thought I was helping, she admitted, tears carving tracks through her mascara. Pushing you to fit, but seeing you here, happy, it shames me. Forgiveness flowed uneven. Jake's guarded, mine tentative. But by noon, she joined us at the shop, sleeves rolled up, learning to change a spark plug with a determination that bordered on defiance. If my brother's gonna burn bridges, she said, wrench slipping comically, might as well learn to build better ones. Elmwood, meanwhile, simmered. The Gazette piece ignited a firestorm. Letters to the editor decrying moral decay. Petitions circling like vultures for a values referendum. At the shop, customers I'd known since knee-high split into camps. Some canceling oil changes with icy politeness. Others slipping extra tips with winks. Hang in there, boys. Progress comes slow as molasses. Frankie turned O'Malley's into neutral ground, posting a rainbow sticker by the door that drew both glares and grins. Eleanor, ever the quiet revolutionary, baked pies for the supporters' potluck. Her driveway a beacon for late-night talks where fears aired like laundry on the line. Through it all, Jake and I clung like burrs to denim. Nights found us on the riverbank, bonfire crackling against the chill, sharing stories that bridged our worlds. He spoke of Austin's hidden bars, drag shows under neon glow where queens lip-synced Patsy Cline with ferocity. I countered with Elmwood's underground, secret fishing holes where Dad and I once whispered dreams, now repurposed for stolen kisses. You're my anchor, he murmured one night, head on my shoulder, stars pricking the velvet sky. In a sea of storms, I kissed his temple, tasting salt, sweat or tears I couldn't tell. And you're the wind that fills my sails. But betrayal's echo lingered, manifesting in smaller cuts. A coworker at Jake's carpentry gig, buzzed on post-shift beers, cornered him in the lumber yard. Heard you're one of those. Keep it professional, Harlan, or you're out. Jake laughed it off, but came home with knuckles white on the steering wheel, rage simmering. They think it's a phase, like I can flip a switch. I pulled him into the attic, hands mapping the tension from his shoulders, words weaving reassurance. It's their fear, not yours. We're real. That's enough. Lovemaking followed, slow and sacred. Not fire, but embers, glowing steady in the dark. Winter's grip tightened, snow blanketing Elmwood in hush. Christmas brought Lila back, this time with olive branches. Mama's pecan pie recipe and a tentative, bless your hearts, for us both. The Hargrove Victorian glowed with lights, Eleanor's table groaning under turkey and fixings. Toasts rang out, to Tom, to resilience, to love that defies labels. Jake's hand under the tablecloth squeezed mine, a vow unspoken. Later, by the tree, he slipped a silver chain around my neck, a tiny wrench pendant, engraved built to last. For the fixer in you, he whispered. Tears pricked. I fastened a matching hammer for him. For the builder. Spring thawed more than earth. Jake landed a contract restoring the old train depot, community project, funded by unlikely allies. The progressive librarian who'd slipped him the Gazette contact, even Frankie chipping in with bar proceeds. Groundbreaking drew a crowd. Mixed as ever, cheers drowned jeers. Rainbow flags fluttering beside faded American ones. I stood beside him, toolbox at my feet, as he drove the first spike. This is for us, he said, low enough for only me. Roots that run deep, yet conflict brewed anew, insidious as rust. Lila called one muggy June evening, voice trembling. Mama's sick, needs you home, Jake. For real this time, no scandals. The pull was gravitational, family a black hole threatening to swallow progress. Jake paced the attic, phone clutched like a grenade. I can't go back. Not without you. But doubt crept in mine, his whispers of what if and not enough. I drove to Eleanor's, seeking counsel in her sunroom, Fern's whispering secrets. Love's not a solo flight, she said, pressing a mug of chamomile into my hands. But sometimes, you gotta let 'em soar alone to find their way back. He went, packing the Ford with reluctance, promising 2 weeks max. The attic echoed empty, my shifts at the shop mechanical. Each tick of the clock a countdown. Letters arrived, handwritten, ink smudged with Austin heat. Tales of hospital vigils, Mama's frail hand in his, the courage it took to stand unapologetic. She asked about you, one read. Said you sound like the kind of steady Tom would have admired. Pride swelled, mingled with ache. 2 weeks stretched to 3, then a month. Calls grew sparse, excuses piling like unchecked invoices. Paranoia bloomed. Was it the ex pulling strings? Family pressure reshaping him? I threw myself into work, rebuilding a '57 Chevy for a client in Cleveland. Chrome gleaming, engine roaring like suppressed fury. Eleanor checked in, her looks now soft with shared sorrow. Storms pass, Alex. But wreckage? That's where growth happens. The hammer fell via voicemail, cold as a winter draft. Alex, I can't. Mama's fading and they need me whole. Pretending. It's killing her heart. I'm sorry. No plea, no fight, just surrender. I shattered then, alone in the shop, wrench hurling against the wall in a symphony of clangs. Betrayal, round 2. Not malice, but erosion. Love worn down by tides of obligation. The days after Jake's voicemail blurred into a gray haze, Elmwood's summer sun mocking my internal eclipse. I moved through routines on autopilot, coffee black, shifts endless, smiles plastered like temporary fixes on a leaking radiator. The shop became sanctuary and prison. Engines yielded to my hands, predictable in their mechanics, while human hearts proved volatile as nitroglycerin. Customers sensed the shift, their small talk veering sympathetic. Heard about your fella. Chin up, Alex. Plenty of fish in the river. But fish didn't build porches or kiss with starlit promises. They just swam away. Eleanor dragged me to her garden, one sweltering afternoon. Trowel in hand, dirt caking our knees like shared camouflage. Plant something, she insisted, shoving a packet of zinnia seeds my way. Roots need tending, even after frost. We dug in silence at first, earth cool against the heat, until words tumbled out. Mine jagged, hers steady as oak. He didn't betray you, honey. He betrayed himself. That's the deeper wound. She shared her own ghosts. Tom's hidden affairs in the early years, the choice to forgive not for him, but for the life they built. Love's humanistic mess, Alex. We rise from the muck, or we drown in it. Lila called a week later, voice stripped of fire. Mama's gone, quiet in her sleep. Jake, he's a wreck. Blames himself for everything. Funeral details followed. Sweltering Texas chapel. Harlan clan in starched black. Expectations heavy as humidity. He wants you there, she added softly. Says you're the only one who sees him clear. Temptation warred with pride. I hung up, staring at the wrench pendant Jake had given. Now a talisman on my nightstand. Go and risk more shattering? Stay and calcify into regret? The drive south was a odyssey. Jeep humming interstate hymns, cornfields giving way to scrubland, radio cycling Willie Nelson laments. Austin sprawled welcoming yet alien. 6 streets neon pulse, barbecue smoke curling like incense. The chapel was modest, air thick with lilies and loss, Harlan's a formidable phalanx in the pews. Jake stood at the casket, hollowed suit rumpled, eyes shadowed as forgotten blueprints. Our gazes locked across the aisle. His cracked, a damn breach. I slipped into the row behind, hand brushing his shoulder in silent anchor. After, at the graveside under merciless sun, he crumbled sobs wrenching from depths I'd only glimpsed. Family milled awkward, condolences clipped. Lila pulled me aside. Thank you for coming. He was gonna drive himself mad without you. The wake was a Harlan affair. Mansion on the hills, crystal decanters flowing, whispers of inheritance and legacy. Jake cornered me in the library, shelves groaning with leather-bound facades. I thought distance would clarify. Instead, it just amplified the lie. His fingers traced my jaw, desperate. I love you, Alex. Always. But Mama's death gutted me, made me question if I could ever be enough. For you, for anyone. We talked till stars wheeled overhead, raw, unfiltered. His family's pressure. The expectation to marry, sire heirs, uphold the oil money empire. The ex-fiancé's return, dangling normalcy like bait. I almost caved. He confessed, voice ash. Told her yes just to stop the noise. But your face. God, Alex, it stopped me cold. Betrayal's anatomy dissected. Not malice, but fracture lines from boyhood, widened by loss. I shared my own scars. Dad's deathbed silence on my truth. Elmwood's subtle suffocations. We're both rebuilders, I said. Damaged goods, maybe, but worth the salvage. He chose then, fierce as a nor'easter. Resigned from the family firm, liquidated his share for a fresh start. North, he murmured, lips to my temple. With you, if you'll have me. The drive back was tandem. His truck tailing my Jeep, highways unspooling like forgiven threads. Elmwood greeted us tentative. The Gazette ran a follow-up, Harlan returns. A carpenter's calling. Framing his homecoming as redemption arc, skeptics grumbled. But allies multiplied. Eleanor hosting a welcome-back barbecue. Frankie toasting with whiskeys all around. Summer waned into harvest gold. Conflicts ebbing but not erased. Jake dove into the depot project, hammer swinging with renewed fury, while I mentored a kid at the shop, 17, wide-eyed, grappling with his own whispers. It's okay to be you, I told him over socket wrenches. Jake's example echoing in my advice. Evenings we reclaimed the river. Bonfires higher, stories deeper, intimacy a language refined by fire. No rush, no desperation. Just presence, hands clasped against the current's murmur. Yet climax loomed, dramatic as Greek tragedy, in the form of Harlan Sr., Jake's father, patriarch incarnate, rolling into Elmwood unannounced. The Ford pulled up to the Miller house like a battleship docking, silver hair gleaming, Stetson tipped in false courtesy. Son, he boomed, enveloping Jake in a bear hug that reeked of bourbon and boardrooms. Heard you're shacking up. Time to come home. Make something of yourself. The air crackled. I hovered by the toolbox, intruder in my own rebuild. Dinner was a minefield, Eleanor's table neutral ground, turkey cold from tension. Harlan Sr. pontificated. Legacies, responsibilities, the natural order. Jake's jaw set, fork stabbing potatoes like nails. I'm building here, Dad. A life. With Alex. The name drop landed like a gauntlet. Eyes widened, then narrowed. That so? Well, boy's got grit, I'll give him. But love don't pay bills, Jacob. Nor does deviation. The slur hung, venomous. I rose, chair scraping accusation. With respect, sir, love built empires. Yours included. Once. The eruption followed. Jake defending, father blustering, Lila mediating from afar via frantic texts. Harlan Sr. stormed out, tires squealing manifesto, but not before a parting shot. You're disowned. Good luck with your fairy tale. Door slammed. Silence crashed. Jake sagged, defeat etching lines I'd never seen. It's over. Everything. I pulled him close, porch creaking under our weight. No, it's beginning. We choose our family now. Autumn painted Elmwood in fiery strokes. Maples ablaze, pumpkins grinning from stoops, the air crisp with cider and change. Harlan Sr.'s disownment rippled outward. Checks frozen, old friends ghosting, whispers at the depot site turning to outright sabotage. Tools vanishing, permits delayed. Jake weathered it with carpenter's stoicism, but cracks showed. Midnight pacing, sketches crumpled in frustration. That crooked smile dimmed to flicker. What if he's right? he confessed one frost-kissed night, bundled on the porch swing. What if we're just chasing smoke? I refused the spiral, drawing him to the shop instead, late hours under fluorescent hum, rebuilding that '57 Chevy as metaphor. Look, I said, sliding under the chassis, torque wrench singing. Rusted frame, busted suspension. But the heart? V8 strong. We stripped the damage, weld new steel. Stronger. He joined, grease-streaked and grinning, hands steadying as we torqued bolts together. Laughter returned, tentative, then full-throated, echoing off cinderblock walls. "You're my welder," he said, kissing me amid the oil scent. "Fixing what I can't." Community wove the safety net. Eleanor's garden club rallied fundraisers disguised as bake sales. Depot Dream auctions at O'Malley's where Frankie auctioned naming rights to beams. Mine, Alex's anchor. The kid from the shop, Timmy, organized a youth crew. Teens hammering under our watch, learning more than joists. Resilience, visibility. "You guys are legends," he blurted one day, cheeks flushing. "Makes it less scary for the rest of us." Jake ruffled his hair, eyes misting. "Legends? Nah, just men loving hard." Climax crested at the depot's grand reopening. November chill nipping heels, crowd bundled against the wind, lanterns strung like constellations. Speeches droned. Mayor on economic boosts, council on heritage. Then Jake, at the podium, voice steady as heartwood. "This isn't just a building. It's a testament to starting over, to loving without apology. I lost a father to fear, but gained brothers, sisters. A town that chooses better." Applause thundered, mixed with holdouts' murmurs. But the ribbon cut clean, doors swinging wide to reveal restored glory. Polished beams, exhibit halls humming with Elmwood lore. After, in the throng, Harlan Sr. appeared. Uninvited specter, Stetson shadowing regret-lined eyes. No bluster, just a hand extended, tentative. "Heard the speech. Reminded me of your mama." Fierce, foolish heart. Jake froze. I squeezed his elbow, anchor steady. Words exchanged low. Apologies veiled in gruffness, bridges tentative. "Proud of you, son, even if I stumble saying it." No fairy tale hug, but a nod, progress inch by inch. Winter solstice brought quiet miracles. Lila visited, bearing not edicts but embrace. Introducing her girlfriend, a soft-spoken artist with ink-stained fingers. "Took me long enough to see it," she laughed, clinking mugs at Eleanor's Yule log. The Victorian brimmed. Carols on the gramophone. Tom's photo wreathed in holly. Jake and I stealing mistletoe moments in the stairwell. "This is family," he whispered, chain pendant glinting. "Ours." Spring unfurled verdant. Zinnias blooming defiant from Eleanor's plot. Seeds from that grief-struck day now rioting color. Jake and I finished the Miller house, selling it to a young couple fleeing city grind. "Starting fresh," the wife said, echoing our hymn. Proceeds seeded a trust. For Timmy's trade school. For depot expansions. For whatever storms brewed next. Years layered like varnish. The shop thrived, my name on the sign. Riley Harlan Auto, a quiet merger. Jake's carpentry firm grew, specializing in legacy restores. Old structures, new souls. We adopted a rescue mutt, Buster, who claimed the porch's throne. Hosted barbecues where rainbows mingled with stars and stripes. Eleanor passed gentle one June dawn. Driveway Chevy willed to me. For the roads ahead, her funeral drew the town. Eulogies weaving her as unsung hero. The widow who mothered strays, gay and straight alike. Betrayal's scars faded to silver. Reminders, not chains. Jake and I, weathered but whole, stood on our porch one star-strewn night, Buster snoring at our feet. That look from Eleanor, I mused, arm around his waist. It didn't stop my heart. It set it free. He turned, storm-gray eyes soft. And mine? You rebuilt it, piece by loving piece. Kiss sealed it, romantic, human, enduring as the Ohio rivers bend. In Elmwood's embrace, we thrived. Dramatic arcs bent toward light. Suspense resolved in dawn's promise. Emotions tempered to wisdom. No perfection, just persistence. The gay American dream, forged in grease and grace, betrayals fire-yielding gold.